Well, hello everybody. Thanks for attending another one of our info-packed webinars presented by BidYourEnergy.com. My name is Thomas Johnson and I'll be your host this morning. So today we're talking about the PJM capacity market and the pricing model they use to calculate rates for capacity and what kind of pricing is in store for customers in the PJM territory going forward. And we'll also give you guys some tips on what Bid Your Energy does to use this info to your advantage in procuring the lowest possible rate for your electricity. So everyone is logged in, and we'll just get started here. On the first slide, I have the definition of capacity, which is the amount of energy the grid needs to have on standby to supply your facility at any particular point in time. So whether you use it or not, the grid must always have that energy on hand to ensure reliability across the board. We don't want any blackouts or brownouts. And every building has this peak number they use, and it's up to the RTO, which in this case is PJM, to make sure that that is always on hand to fulfill your capacity obligations. Now, before we could dig in any deeper, we have to understand how you're actually being charged for your capacity obligation. On the next slide, I have a cross-section of an electricity bill. This one happens to be from PSEG in New Jersey, but this will work for any of the utilities under PJM's umbrella. I've highlighted the two major sections of electricity, the delivery portion, which is in yellow, and the supply portion underneath in red. Now, sometimes you'll see that top delivery portion called demand charges or distribution charges, delivery charges. It's all the same thing. This portion is always going to be paid to the utility because it's for the delivery of power to your facility. Your utility is charging that because they own the lines and they're responsible for keeping your service on. The bottom part, the supply portion that's circled in red, is the charge for the energy that you use. And we're going to focus on this section. My next slide, I zoom in on that. And here's the close-up. You can see that it's separated into two components. In yellow, I have energy, and in red, I have capacity. When you get a quote from Bid Your Energy and we talk about an all-inclusive rate, we're looking at both of these components, energy and capacity, and combining them into one flat rate. Okay, so the energy portion in yellow, the market for that, it changes every day, it changes every hour. It's constantly going up and down. It's driven by the price of natural gas, the weather, a ton of other factors that go into making that move up and down every day. And the other half, the capacity, is handled completely differently, and it's handled a few different ways in different markets. RTOs handle it differently. Today, if you're here, you are in PJM, so we're going to focus on how they set these capacity rates. And the next slide shows you it's called the Reliability Pricing Model, or RPM. Now, according to PJM's website, this was implemented to create long-term price signals and attract investments towards making the grid more reliable across PJM. And competitive auctions are held each year to determine the price of capacity for each zone in PJM. And finally, capacity is procured 3 years before it is needed. Okay, these auctions, they're held in May, and the zones are based around utilities and their territories. Just for brevity, we'll call it that. And so earlier this month, we actually had auctions and cleared pricing, but it was for the 2015-2016 season, 3 years ahead. So the thinking here from PJM's perspective is knowing so far in advance what the price of capacity will be is going to attract attention from investors and allow them to do major upgrades to the infrastructure because of that price security that's there. All of these upgrade projects, they take years and years, and this model is also very interesting when third-party suppliers are quoting their supply rates, because they have to take these capacity rates into account and your capacity obligation into account when quoting a rate. And in PJM, these rates are there, and they're set in stone for the next 3 years. And that capacity obligation has to be multiplied by the zone that you're in's rate, this RPM rate, to calculate what they call your capacity cost. And you will hear suppliers often call this a cap tag from time to time. And I've mentioned this on every webinar we've done so far, and I'll do it again later. The energy side of the market, it's very, very low. We're at the 10-year historical low. But the capacity market is the exact opposite. It's going up and up and up. And we're going to take a look at some numbers on the next slide. Okay, this is an average taken of all zones in PJM. And just so that you can see that capacity is trending upward. These aren't what you're actually being charged or what's being used to calculate capacity. Like I said, I just average them together to take a broad look across the board. But on the next slide, I have this year's auctions results. Okay, all of the eastern zones came in at $167, and that's dollars per megawatt day. Okay, and most of the western zones were at $136. And that's pretty standard for what is going on in the market. Infrastructure is a big part of where these prices shake out. On the eastern seaboard, you have a lot of congestion. It becomes harder to push power out from generating sources. And in the western parts of PJM, it's much easier. Now, at the bottom there's one zone that's a lot higher than everybody else, and it's kind of glaring at me, and that's ATSI. The ATSI's northern Ohio and western PA. They have utilities like Toledo and Ohio Edison, Cleveland Illuminating Company, Penn Power. And you can see in a couple years, this will be 3 years from now, the pricing of capacity is going to go through the roof. In ATSI, you're going to be paying more than double the rest of the country. And this probably is linked to quite a bunch of different factors. One I can think of is 7 power plants in Ohio that are closing in the end of 2014 because of EPA restrictions regarding the burning of coal. So there's a lot of capacity that's being lost that year. So what we see by these numbers is that capacity prices are rising across the board. Some zones more than others, but there are some things that Bidger Energy can do to help you offset these rising costs. And on the next slide, I laid out pricing across utilities for the next 3 years. Okay, so this doesn't include the auction that was just cleared, but this is 2012, 2013, and 2014. And we can take away some interesting data from this. Okay, so the zones that are in red right now, I'll take a look at the top one, Atlantic Electric. It's $139.73 this year, $245 next year. It jumps up quite significantly, and then back down to $135 the year after. Okay, since these rates, like I said, are figured into your supply rate and they're not going to change, we can look at things like a 3-year contract. Since we use all 3 years, we'll actually get a better rate on a 3-year term than we would on a 2-year, obviously. Right now, if you're in Atlantic City, you've been updating, and you've been updating your price every year, let's say. You've year after year have been getting a better and better rate because everything's been going down across the board. But when you see what's going to happen next year, you're going to have a much higher capacity rate, and your total supply price is probably going to be about 20% higher than where you are right now. So if you went into a 3-year term instead of a 1-year or a 2-year, these prices, these capacity prices, they're all going to blend together, and you're not going to have to explain to your boss or whoever why your electric bill is going up 20% next year, and I don't think anyone wants to do that. So in contrast, I have these blue zones, some of the western PJM zones. And the third year for capacity on these ones is off the charts compared to the previous two. Look, you can see $16, $27, and then $125. So what do we do in these ones? Well, we can look at a 2-year fixed price. It's going to be much lower, obviously, than doing a 3-year. But you still may want to talk about a 3-year pricing in this one, because having all of them spread out is going to make you take a lot less of a hit in that 3rd year. And this is where a consultant like Bid Your Energy and their analysts come in handy. We run the numbers and lay out all the options for you, and it's pretty simple. This capacity component, it's so simple. We know exactly what it is for the next 3 years, but it always gets overlooked. And that's where a good consultant like Bid Your Energy can come in handy. So here are some takeaways from this info. You want to leverage today's historically low energy side of the market. Okay, capacity rates are known through May of 2016, and they're not going to change. And you want to look at taking the longest term possible to blend the low energy against this higher capacity out there. And here's the energy market. We're at a 10-year low in energy pricing, as I said a couple times already. It's the perfect time to let Bid Your Energy work on maximizing your savings. We actually assign a dedicated analyst to all of our clients here, and what they do is all of this legwork is done for you by these guys. They look at 30 separate components when they're negotiating a rate on your bill. We just went over 2 very important components, and this is literally the type of work that Bid Your Energy is doing every day. We don't want our customers to get lost in all this minutia. Let us handle everything. We're the experts here. We can handle it, and you can sit back and know that Bid Your Energy is getting you the lowest possible rate. And that's all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone again for attending another one of our webinars. Stay tuned for more coming up. We have EPA regulations, solar power, fracking, a bunch of good ones coming up. They're every Thursday at 11. Again, my name is Thomas Johnson. I'm your host. And please visit our website, bidyourenergy.com. You can click on the Get Started link, and we can do the rest. Or you can call our 877 number. That's 877-669-8243. And my extension here is 336. Thanks again for taking time out of your day to listen in, and I hope you all have a great afternoon.